Welcome to the Wisdom of Women show. We are dedicated to amplifying the voice of women in business. A new model of leadership is emerging, and we are here to amplify the voices of women leading the way. I am your host, Coco Selman, five-time founder, impact investor, and creator of the Force for Good system. Thank you for joining us today as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises by amplifying the voice and wisdom of women. Today, we have a mission-rooted powerhouse in our presence. Roslyn McLarty is the founder and CEO of Within, a personal development platform helping purpose-led founders build companies that scale impact without sacrificing their well-being. Before launching Within, she co-founded The Gist, the groundbreaking women-run digital sports media brand, making sports more inclusive and fun for millions of underserved fans. At The Gist, Rosalind grew the company to a multi-million-dollar enterprise with a 40-person team, predominantly women and non-binary folks, earning recognition as a Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree and attracting backing from Facebook, Comcast NBC, Techstars, and Billie Jean King's Trailblazer program. Her experience of founder burnout revealed the hidden cost of traditional grind culture and inspired her to help visionary entrepreneurs align success with authenticity, joy, and longevity. Today, through Within's coaching, content, and community, Rosalind empowers founders to scale purpose-driven companies while staying deeply connected to who they truly are. Welcome, Rosalind.
Thank you so much for having me, Coco. I feel like the things we talk about resonate so much with each other. So I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yeah, Rosalind and I are part of the Whisper group, which is Carrie Kirpin's wonderful community of exited founders. And it's such a pleasure to be here with you and unpack your journey, because women founders need to look to each other for models and guides on how to pave our way of success and what success can look like for us. And I think you've navigated that in such a wise and grounded way. It's really an honor to be here with you.
Thank you. It hasn't always been the case, but I like to think that's true now.
How we navigate, right? We have to test the edges of what works and doesn't work for us. I always like to hear about a favorite book written by a woman that has significantly influenced your life.
Yes, absolutely. So The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck significantly changed the trajectory of my life. It was recommended to me. I read it after I had gone through founder burnout. And the idea of the book is that if we are out of integrity with ourselves, meaning if our mind, body, heart, and soul are out of integrity with each other, we're going to feel out of alignment. We're going to feel burnt out. By aligning to the things that make us feel the most energized and alive, that's how we find our purpose, and our purpose leads to our greatest impact that we're meant to have while we're here. That was such a different belief than what I grew up with. And so it completely rocked my world and changed the way that I thought about things and wanted to move forward from there. It also inspired me to join Martha Beck's coaching program, which was the pivot in my career that brought me more into integrity with myself. Major life-changing book.
I have had some friends over the years who've been a part of Martha's program, and everybody speaks volumes about the quality of the experience and integrity in the program. The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. I have not read this book, so I'm going to check it out. That's really great. Thank you for that suggestion. So in life, we have moments that shape who we are, who we show up as today. And so I always like to start with our guests to help us understand you better. What are 3 moments from your life, not just business, but life
Mhm.
that have really shaped who you are. It could be moments of big pivot, could be moments of overcoming a horrendous challenge. It could be decision. It could be a gift that came out of the sky that has changed and shaped who you are. So,
Mhm.
what would be three of those life defining moments for you?
Yeah, I love that. The first one is a little bit more subtle. It's the first moment that I walked into a yoga class, probably in my late teens. I was home from my first year of business school. I was like on this path to become a CPA, had grown up with like CPA entrepreneur parents, very like business minded household. I really identified as like a numbers oriented, like logical, analytical person. Thought that that's like how I was going to bring value to the world and be successful in my career. And I just happened to try this yoga class a friend brought me. And I just thought, like, there's something for me here. It was my first step into anything related to spirituality, which is not something I grew up with. My parents weren't religious or spiritual or anything, but there was something about it that made sense. And that was the beginning of this spiritual path I started to uncover that was kind of in parallel to this other very like business accounting career that I was like starting out early in my career. But that was kind of like the first sign for me that spirituality was going to be a part of my life. The second big defining moment was when I came up with the idea for my last company, The Gist. I was having dinner with two of my friends from school. We were all early in our careers and we were talking about sports and sports fandom and had this light bulb moment of realizing like, why is nobody catering sports to women? This industry is so male dominated, but women make up a big part of the fan base and want to be involved in the conversation and the community and the culture around sports. Why don't we do it, I guess? And so that kicked off, working on the just as a side hustle, eventually going full time and realizing I am meant to be an entrepreneur. And then the third defining moment was burning out from that company and realizing the way I had been moving through the world and the misalignment I had been feeling from my true self, like how out of integrity I was, that founder burnout that eventually caused me to transition out of the company I built and loved so much, was a huge wake up call and like kicked off a major healing journey and was kind of the thing that rocked me into a career that was finally in alignment with who I am and how I'm meant to make an impact.
So cool. I love this idea of your young self stepping into business school and yoga at the same
Uh-huh.
time. I find that for myself, there is a deep thread between true deep success and also inner success and outer success,
Mm.
where the two play together. I
Mhm.
find that where the inner and outer world, when they're both alive, that like there's a real power that comes from that. I love imagining you in that place, the analytical and the spiritual together. I love that you are into sports. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up playing sports. I was a competitive soccer player. I loved it. I loved playing on a team. I loved moving my body in that way. I actually, interestingly, I wasn't a super sports fan when I started The Gist because there was no sports media that was catering to me. It was very exclusive. It felt very like inaccessible. Like when you look at sports panels, it was like all men doing the analysis. All the coverage was on men's sports. And so we actually started the company out of a place of really resonating with that problem of there's nothing here for me.
Right. And it's turned into, I feel like the world is now really starting to focus on women's sports. So you kind of came into it at a good time, you know?
I guess in that way, we saw the white space and others have realized it too. And I like to think that we were one of the players that made the business case for serving women in this very male dominated industry.
That's very cool. A big part of my work with How Women Lead is helping women learn about how to invest in sports. And so we'll
Mm,
have to unpack that together at some
yes.
point, how to make sports more female friendly, right? We are an audience. When we decide we're interested in something, we show up big. I have a daughter who loves sports, wants to go into the business of sports. Learning about it has been a discovery for me, and I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a huge investment area that a lot of people have been sleeping on. Women have all of this spending power, and studies show that the sponsors working with female teams are garnering way more increases in affinity towards these brands than the men's teams do. It's just obvious.
I hear too. I was talking to a woman just over the weekend. I was in San Francisco and she was talking about how they had gone to a Valkyries game. And it was much like being in the stadium felt like everyone was cheering for everyone. You can have a fierce love of a particular team, but it's like a Taylor Swift concert in some regards, where there's so much positivity that it can be a little different for women in sports, right? I mean, they're fierce competitors and all that. So, but anyway, a big part of what you help women with is this area of overcoming burnout and shifting. Can you take us back to that moment when you burned out and knew something had to change? What were some of those signs and symptoms? What were you going through that helped you realize that you were out of integrity, right? You no longer living a life that was sustainable for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was ignoring a lot of the signs and symptoms up till the moment where I couldn't anymore because I just was so in I couldn't accept the fact that I couldn't be going on with my company. I was so attached to my founder identity and I thought that my future was going to be with it that it took just waking up one morning and realizing something is so off and not okay. I felt physically and emotionally exhausted in my body. Emotionally, I was at the end of my rope to the point where I would be crying about random emails that were not even that big of a deal. I felt sick opening up my laptop because I was dreading it so much. I was drinking 4 cups of coffee a day just to make it through my to-do list. I was at night, like, couldn't sleep, staying up late, ruminating on things and experiencing like almost existential dread. There was a couple panic attacks where, yeah, there was a lot of signs, and it just took waking up one morning and realizing that I couldn't go on like that. I did try and go on, talk to my co-founders and say, "Okay, I'm feeling really burnt out." They were very compassionate and understanding, but I think none of us fully understood the extent of how damaging burnout can be and the recovery that's needed. Some of our ideas and suggestions were like, just take a long weekend here and there, try and make it to your 2-week vacation that's upcoming. So that's what I did. I tried to take a few things off of my plate, tried to hire for a role that like we needed to hire for, made it to my 2-week vacation and got back and nothing had changed because when you're at such a high level of burnout, that can take months, if not years, to recover from, which was the case for me. And eventually, after trying to push through it, that reality kind of started to set in that I was going to need to take some time off. So at first, it was going to be a 4-month sabbatical. But in that time away, I started to do some of the self work and healing work to understand how I had gotten there in the first place. And just started to understand that, like, underneath all the things that I thought were burning me out, like the surface level things, was this deep misalignment and feeling of inadequacy and fear almost that was creating behaviors that were burning me out. So, for instance, because I was worried that I wasn't enough in my company, not capable enough, not a good enough leader, not a good enough fundraiser, I was resorting to perfectionism. I was people pleasing with my whole team, trying to make everybody like me. I was trying to control everything. I wanted everything to be on certain timelines. Even when things were going well, I would be happy for like 5 minutes and then think of all the other things that could be done better. All that was contributing to my burnout. And the other big thing was this misalignment that we talked about. Like I mentioned, I kind of went through my life thinking that it was my numbers orientation and like analysis and logic that was how I brought value. And I was ignoring my creativity and the way that I like to deeply connect with people and my love of like personal development and spirituality, all of which I'm combining in what I'm doing now. But at the time, all those were just like completely under the radar and being ignored. I didn't give myself permission to value them in a business setting. And so, as the head of operations, finance, and growth, that was just so misaligned from who I actually am. And so, all of those things together, I think, burned me out. And as I started to unravel them, I realized that going back full time wouldn't be the best thing for me.
So you said, first of all, just thank you for your honesty and vulnerability. There's so much that any founder can relate to here. It's that not enoughness tend to carry around as women, the inadequacy and fear. Like we think we're honestly, it's like it's there. And how do we build ourselves into a life in a world with people around us? How do we do things in spite of that? How we restore okayness as we do hard things? And you talked about, and I'm just reminding our readers, signs of it are perfectionism, people pleasing, and the need to control everything. And it does feel like a desperate ride, right? You need to control everything because you want your numbers or top line numbers to go up, your expenses to go down or stay in a certain place, and your bottom line to grow. So you want to control all those things. And while you're fundraising, it's a lot. But at the heart of it, you said, and this is what my question when you first talked about it was like, what was really at the heart of your burnout? And you said it was
misalignment.
And we go through, I think all of us do, and I don't know that it ever ends, right? We're always finding alignment. We're always going deeper. And whatever our strengths are early in life, we think those are our strengths. And then we discover, our organization and our steadfastness and our hard work, right? Those are our strengths. But then, oh my goodness, there's this whole other pool of less valued in the world things. Really sounds like is your strength.
Yeah, it's interesting. With the family that I came up in and going to business school, I didn't realize that those things were valuable, but they are incredibly valuable in building a business. I don't think that is recognized externally because we live in a society where startup founders and businesses think it's quite formulaic. It's like, if I do this and I do that, then our top line will grow. If I work the extra hours, we'll get the extra revenue. But it's actually not that way. And when you think back on the biggest changes in trajectory to your business, a lot of the times it comes from creativity or an ability to be still. You thought about it on a walk or run, in the shower, or on a retreat. Those are the things that don't just help you climb up your existing trajectory, but change the trajectory of your business. The ability to tap into that deeper wisdom, to develop a healthier relationship with rest, with your intuition, with your spirituality, your self-trust. Like, these are the things that will actually take your business from here to here instead of just going up the curve.
I love that because what I'm hearing you say that there is another way. And it doesn't mean that you can't build an incredible, prosperous business with substance of scale. It means you actually have to let go of these old crutches that we use to save.
Yeah, exactly.
There's deeper pool, right?
Exactly. And that's hard to do because there are myths in our society that we learn, the harder you work, the luckier you get. My dad used to say that to me all the time growing up. When we look at the founders that are in the media, they're not always exhibiting a set of qualities and skills that resonate with a lot of women, for instance. A lot of the time, they're not doing business in ways that would feel in integrity or right. For me, a lot of the work I do with founders and have had to do with myself is undoing stories about what it means to grow a business and how you're supposed to do it and be able to trust yourself more, cultivate that deeper wisdom and heal the parts of you that get in the way because they're unhealed and trying to protect you from feeling hurt. Usually they're the ones doing the perfectionism, overwork, people pleasing, and control. When we can start to soften those behaviors and develop a relationship with those parts, that's when we're able to sink into that deeper wisdom that's going to allow us to build the business we want to work in, and that can be successful.
Maybe you could share with us so we can understand it in a tangible way. You and your team grew the gist to millions of users and a 40-person team. You were ahead of growth and scale. What would you do differently now? How you did things then versus how you help clients position growth now? What would be an example? You still probably need to go through those same steps of sales and marketing than creating product.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah, that's such a good question. When I think about how I led growth and our audience growth, primarily for our newsletter, which now has 1 million subscribers, but I think the way I was approaching it was very formulaic. I spent a lot of time in spreadsheets thinking about like, what's the CAC? What's the LTV? Like, what are the different marketing channels? If we like spend this money here and this money there, what will that result in? And that's helpful. That's like good. It's helpful to take a data oriented approach to marketing. In terms of the inspiration for some of the different growth and marketing channels, I was very much looking externally. What are the other newsletters doing? What are their playbooks? How can we just take what they're doing and apply it for us? One of the problems I ran into was seeing our subscribers as numbers in a spreadsheet instead of the end user. I was a little bit disconnected from that. What I'm doing differently now and what I would advise people to do is to go where your energy is. Tap into your intuition and sense what would feel like a fun way of growing this business. What would be a way that aligns with my zone of genius and what I love to do. And of course, like listening to the end user, like combining the data and the insights that you're getting from whoever it is you're trying to grow with, but combining that with like, how do I want to grow this? So we were talking about this a little bit before we came on, but I just have been feeling this deep desire to gather female founders together. I think before I actually was trying to grow my company in the way that I built my last company, which was as a media company. So I have an email newsletter and I'm like, I need to be posting on social, but I haven't been having energy there. And so I haven't been having anybody sign up through online channels. But then as soon as I started going towards what's been energy giving and creative to me, which has been events and doing group coaching, there's been so much more flow and ease in people coming in that way. It's obviously still great to have spreadsheets and look at your unit economics and all of those things, but having it be from a spark of alignment and creativity and what's energy giving was the piece that was missing for me.
I love that. And I could not possibly agree more. I mean, there is, in my experience, a deep connection between marketing that works and when I'm really in my truth.
Yeah.
Right? It isn't like a switch you can always turn on. Sometimes you have to dabble and find what works for you. Like, I'm sure and I've done this, I'm speaking in myself here. You try things, you're guided to try things, whether it be online, articles, podcast, whatever it is, you're guided to do something. And you don't really know what's going to really sing to you until you try things. Until you find the perfect thing, you'll never find it because it's through the experience that you actually just happen upon it. Do you have anything you want to say about that? I mean, just in terms of finding that authenticity.
Yeah. So for me, part of it is creating the space and routines that allow me to tap into those ideas. A really big part of building my business this time around has been developing a daily practice, which involves some qigong, some breath work, some meditation, some journaling, sometimes it's walks outside, and just figuring out what are the moments where I can connect with a deeper part of myself. And that's when I daydream about it. I'll be like, I'm envisioning this gathering of women and like, here's what I want to impart and here's how I want them to feel. And I get the vision for it. And then I'm like, okay, I guess I could do it now. But actually, this made me think of your story, which I just listened to on Carrie's podcast. And the idea that you were able to grow your last company because people saw you lobbying, which came from such a place of intelligence and service, right? Nobody is like, I'm going to market through lobbying, you know? But it, like, to me, that was such a inspired, like, not something that you could steal from another playbook, right?
And your point is exactly right. You have to be listening within to be able to sort of get these hits on what could move you forward. I have a mantra around wisdom and business, and it's that, the thing that's missing from any business, the only thing that's missing is wisdom. It means looking from wisdom to answer the questions of business. Yes, data is good. I have tons of data, but that's not where I make my choices. It's like, what does my wise knowing self want to do with this? And I love, like, right now, I'm launching a founder circle similar to you. What do I envision? What will feel good to me? It's fun that way. With my last company, it was very much like that too. I wanted a
Yeah.
community of nurses. Say more about your other ways, daily practices, rituals that help you continue to grow as a person and as a business owner.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's been so much over these last couple of years because it's been a really big healing journey and way of connecting in words and spiritually. In terms of the daily stuff, I used to run on a nervous system that was very activated a lot of the time. I would go into my days already feeling behind, stressing about what I had to do, getting pulled in, going between tabs, super reactive to emails and Slacks and all the things. And so the daily routine has just been so important for me, getting my nervous system into a regulated place to set the tone for the rest of the day to be from a calm nervous system, because that is the state that you want to be in for more of the creativity and wisdom to come through. Another really big thing for me has been parts work recently, has been exceptionally game changing for me and my relationship to myself and to my deeper presence. I have these tendencies towards perfectionism, control, and people pleasing. And what's happening there is that these are just protective parts of me trying to keep me from feeling hurt again. The reason they came out in the first place is, I remember whether as a kid or throughout my life feeling not enough, not belonging, being rejected, being criticized, being judged, whatever the things are. And so it's been in developing a relationship with these parts and appreciating them and loving them for exactly who they are, that they have been able to start to relax and that I could heal the hurt parts. And then as they relax, tap into my own deeper wisdom. Those are like my big daily things, but there's been a whole lot of other healing modalities along the way to get here, if I'm honest.
Wonderful. And I want to shine a light on that practice of healing the parts of you that are perfectionism, need or that are afraid or play small. I'm not using your words, but what I've found for myself is, and I would love your thoughts on this, as you forgive and make peace with those parts of yourself, you're able with a team to make room and have a different relationship with others who are going through those same challenges, probably unconsciously. How does that impact your ability to lead when you have that awareness?
Yeah. Well, first, it allows you to make decisions that are not based on fear. This is something that I get a lot with my coaching clients. There's a lot of things that come up, performance issues. Somebody's asking for a raise and I can't afford it. They'll have protective parts that come up, whether it's a part that's really scared about money. That's like, we can't afford this raise, even though maybe you can, for instance, or a people pleasing part that's like, well, I have to give them the raise. Like, they're going to like me as a leader. They're going to leave. And all this chatter is getting in the way of what's actually the aligned decision for them. So just having
all
clarity.
noise. Not really you
But
choosing, it's your fear.
exactly. But we identify with the parts and think it's just us. When we start to separate the different voices out and understand their motivations, we can get to the bottom of how we actually want to move forward from a place of integrity. So that is incredibly powerful for leaders The other part is the presence and self-trust you start to develop as a leader when you do that, and when you start to spend more of your time at that level of deeper presence and alignment with yourself, that starts to decrease the fear and allows you to feel more self-confident and less affected by what everybody else is thinking and doing. So much more grounded and centered place to be making decisions for your business and interacting with team and doing the things that you have to do.
So, sustainable ambition, can that exist?
I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about the myth that we need to hustle to be successful. But I think there's a way to build a business that's a lot more intuitive and grounded. And I think it's different for women too. We have been very much forced into the men's 24-hour clock when we're meant to be running on a monthly cycle, actually. So doing things like starting to align kind of your work in the times when you're externally focused versus internally focused to the times of the month, if that's right for you, can allow you to feel a lot more in flow. And I think I'm finding a lot more successful in business doing that. What else? But yeah, I think there's an awareness piece, an education piece, and a healing piece of things you need to undo to arrive at that belief. When you believe that, that's when the magic can start to happen with the way you're building your company. That's how you achieve what everybody is looking for, which is the aligned success that comes from a place of more ease and grounded.
Success that comes from more ease. I love that. I also love how you talk about, I love the language of calm your nervous system, right? And how just even to tune into that, because when you have a calm nervous system, you do make your best decisions. Like I think about motherhood. I am my best mother when I'm the best wife. I'm the best puppy mama. I'm the best friend. Certainly I'm the best leader when I have a calm nervous system. So it's steady. Well, I love this. I'd like to transition us now into a fast fire round. 5 questions to answer in 5 words or less. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
One piece of hustle culture advice you now reject completely.
It's so hard in under 5 words.
Okay.
Hard work is the key to success.
The most underestimated skill a founder needs to scale without losing soul.
Connection to yourself.
A time you realized your external success and internal fulfillment were
just my last company, founder burnout.
Yep. One word friends would use to describe you.
Oh, that's a hard one. Friends would use to describe me that might surprise people. I don't know. I'm struggling with this one so much.
What would a good friend say? What would be a word that words they would use to describe you?
Wise.
What does success mean to you right now in a word or phrase?
Right now, success means alignment and grounded confidence.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So, one last word of advice for our listeners today.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This last kernels of wisdom that you would want to offer.
I would say that entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey. And the more that you invest in your self-awareness, your emotional intelligence, your presence, the better leader you'll be. The challenges that are coming up in your business are your opportunities to heal and evolve.
How can our listeners and viewers learn more about you and your company?
Information about the coaching work I do with founders is within coaching.co. You can find me on social media, just Roslyn McLarty on Instagram and LinkedIn.
We'll have all those links in the show notes so everybody can tap into that. And you have a newsletter too.
I do. Yeah. It's at within.beehive.com. Beehive spelled Beehiiv.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you do one-on-one coaching. You're doing some group stuff. You're building community in New York City, events. Yes.
Yes, exactly. If you're a female founder in New York City, I'm doing biweekly walks on Friday mornings. So come join
Where
us.
do you do this?
I just out of the West Village, Cafe C, 7 a.m. every other Friday. You should join us one day, Coco.
I love that. So how do you get signed up for that? How do you get signed up so you can know about it?
Yeah, it's on Luma. I link to it in my newsletter and on social media, but I can send you a link.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll put that in the show notes too, because that would be cool for anybody who's here. I love that. Every other Friday, go for a walk in the
Village.
Right.
Perfect.
Oh,
Awesome.
Thank you, Rosalind. Thank you for joining us on the Wisdom of Women show today. Thank you for illuminating your path of unlocking prosperity and opportunity for yourself. All these other women founders out there. I love your voice, your story, and your wisdom. Be sure to follow, like, and share the Wisdom of Women show on your favorite listening platform to infuse more of your wisdom into your business. Visit biz.biz/biz. And there you're going to get insights and some tools where you can pour your wisdom right now. The world is made better by women-led business. Let's all go make the world.
I love that.